Good evening, everybody, and welcome to round 9 of Season 1 of the Divine Eye Racing Series Division 1 Formula 1 Racing League. My name is Olaf, aka Wops Racing, and I'll be your commentator for tonight as we'll be racing around the Losail circuit in Qatar. Today, we have another exciting sprint race, feature race combination for you, as we're starting with a one-shot qualifying with a mixed grid that we have seen before in this league, with of course drivers that we know and drivers that we haven't seen before. So with a few newcomers from the same league as we have seen drivers from. So we have Swanee and Naismith from the same league, and there is a third driver now joining them as well, who will be driving in the Aston Martin. There are some reserves, so some of our regulars will not be showing up today, but we should have most of the action here as our championship leader, Kaka, is here with his teammate, Paddy. So they'll be sure to give us a show. Just the two of them would be enough to fill an entire season of Drive to Survive. With 15 seconds on the clock, now we are waiting for the one-shot qualifying to go underway. We'll be taking pole position for the sprint race. The results from that sprint race will be the starting grid for the feature race now. One-shot qualifying has now started. We can see Kaka starting the lap now. We'll be sticking with him the entire lap through. We're going to go on board with him as he goes through the first turn. Very cleanly, using some curb on the exit there. Here on entry as well, using it in the middle, going very wide on the exit, making sure to get as much space as possible. Almost taking out the boards right as it should, up alongside the sausages. Downshifting short for a short moment to gain the rotation. As our newcomer DRL Mike is in the top 3, sticking there a little bit on the lead. But now his teammate Losail is at the bottom and has retired from the session. As Kaka sets up an amazing performance, but can he be challenged by drivers like F1 Dino or DRL Mike, who are now fighting for second position in this qualifying session? Rounding the final few corners of this track, there's a left-hander coming up, and then we have the last right-hander of the track onto the back straight. Kaka seems to be setting a great lap here, as he goes a little bit wide on the final corner, but opening up that DRS should have the pole position ready. Paddy dropping down all the way to 14th, having stuck it very high up, as there's a lot of disqualifications. Unsure what that's all about. We'll probably read that in the chat in just a moment. But Kaka taking pole position for this event. A very, very beautiful lap set by our championship leader. So we have the final standings of this qualifying session. First up, Kaka in the Alfa Romeo with a 1 minute 20.7. Then DRL Mike, our newcomer here, reserving for one of our main drivers, Touchkey, with a 120.8. A very close gap. The closest gap we've seen in a while between the top two drivers. And then a huge gap all the way down into 13th, I should say, with Thok having a 7-second gap. And Paddy, in the end, getting a disqualification, not setting a time, just like all of these drivers down here. So that is 13 drivers with a lap and 7 drivers without a lap. It's going to be an interesting sprint race the way it is. So right now we are waiting for all the drivers to get their setups ready, to get their fuel ready, to get everything they need. There is a small bug that's in the game that when drivers press X to go ready up, it might cause some issues. And also it starts a 30-second timer where drivers will have to speed up and won't have enough time to secure everything they need. So there's a rule put in place that drivers are supposed to wait until the timer starts automatically, because it'll take a minute or two. So everyone gets the same amount of prep as all the other drivers. We are racing tonight around the night variant of this track. The practice session they had earlier tonight was in the daytime, so there was plenty of light and plenty of sun. Currently it is nighttime, so the temperatures will have dropped a little bit, so they'll have to manage the tires' temperatures even more than they had before. So the tire wear between the practice sessions and the race session might not be the exact same, but at least they have the sprint race to figure out a little bit more about the tire compounds. As always, the strategies for the sprint race will start with a soft or a medium, and of course a zero stopper, because the race is so short. The question here is always, can they make the softs last, and can they make the mediums speed up enough to be able to catch up with the softs, or keep up with the softs, I should say. It's going to be interesting again who chooses for what and how that will affect the standings. I'm going to grab the current standings real quick on my phone as we're waiting for the drivers to ready up and for the sprint race to start. We've had to go ahead, so there should be people readying up right about now. As we're almost ready to race. Let's see, driver standings. Currently at the top, Kaká with 206 points. 33 points behind that, we have Mrios, who is currently 15th on the grid for the sprint race. After that, we have Tutschki, who will not be joining us in the race today, but he is joining us in watching almost every POV imaginable along with this broadcast. So Tutschki, if you're here, hello, welcome. And in fourth, we have Paddy, who had a very weird thing going on in qualifying. Was in the top 3 for quite a while, top 4 as well as F1 Dyno. And Mike also cut in a little bit, but then dropped back all the way to 16th and now has a lot to make up for. Then we have Mihu in 5th, who is now 7th on the grid, so is able to make a lot of ground there, as there's only 1 point between Paddy and Mihu. 128 and 127 points respectively. So the driver standings are going to have some spicy battles. And if we look at the constructor standings, it's going to be even better. So Alfa Romeo is currently leading with Kaká, of course, the championship leader. Paddy being very close as well. 134 points. And with exactly 300 points, McLaren are in second place, trailing by 34 points. And Ferrari is below that by 27 points with 273 points. Last weekend, we saw Red Bull take a dip of 2 positions as Alpine and Williams both overtook this team. Alpine with 180 points, a big jump, whereas Red Bull only has 143. Williams has 148, so the difference there is very small. And Aston Martin is 141, so these 3 teams are within 7 points of each other. So this is going to be an exciting one. I'm going to whip up the track map there for you real quick, so you can also see where the drivers are on the track. If you're looking for any of your favorite drivers, be sure to put them in the chat, so I'll be able to look at them as well. Please use their in-game names, because I am not familiar with their real names. So, as the drivers are getting ready to go on the grid, I'm going to take a quick look at the tire strategy. We see Brass Monkeys and Jesper on the softs, and everyone else is chosen for the mediums, meaning that the softs will most likely not last that long unless you're a tire whisperer, which Brass Monkeys and Jesper might think that they are for themselves. So, readying up for the grid. Waiting for the fireflies to go out for the start of the sprint race. We have 10 full laps in Qatar on the Losail circuit. Lights are building, revs are building as well, as we are off and racing in Qatar. Kaká seems to have a very good start, Mike as well, but look on the inside there to Tuccio Also very close. F1 Dino going around the outside, not making too much contact. Sticking it around the outside, but Mike keeping it in, but now has to take the outside to go even further. And this battle is continuing for at least 3 corners as they're still side by side on the straight. And now the Steps is joining into this battle as well, trying to get to the inside of Tutucho. And he is on the inside, overtakes as well, with Mike edging this one out a little bit. But the Mercedes of F1 Down is not giving up. There's a yellow flag further behind, which appears to be for Losail. And F1 Dino takes the lead in this fight with the Steps pushing in as well. We have Thok behind, overtaking Miu for 7th position. Sparrow also battling with Faulkner. You can see this on board. He took the position, and now Oranjeboom dropping back as he appears to be backwards in the sand. Has to now rejoin the track and get going again. We see the Steps chasing Mike for that 3rd position after overtaking Tutucho and jumping up into 4th. A great start for him. Paddy all the way up into 10th already after overtaking Faulkner. And Kaga setting the fastest lap. Now look at the tires. We see Brass Monkeys on the softs as we see side-by-side action here. Not yet, but DRL Mike and F1 Dino both going at it as Mike appears to have taken the position, but Dino is still on the inside for this next little bit and sticks it in front, keeps the position. Very, very nicely done by these drivers. A very nice battle. Mriels now next to Naismith. Almost looking for an overtake there, but not quite going for it. Jasper seems to be falling down the standings a little bit faster than he would have liked. Unfortunately, that is also the case. There's a small train here from 1st to 6th. We have Kaka, Dino, Mike, the Steps, Tutucho, and Divine Eye all in the fight there, with a small gap between 1st and 2nd, I should say, of like 2.2 seconds, which is a great going. Mriel's now overtaking Naismith. Sadly missing that fantastic overtake, as Mriel's is helping Miu for that the Constructors' Championship. Paddy now looking to go past the Williams of Sparrow. We see the possible race strategies, which is a mediums and a hard, but as we know, there's no one starting on the hards. DRS has been enabled, and Mike and Dino are at it again, battling for this 2nd position as Mike makes a mistake, drops back a position, and gets 3rd place handed to him. Paddy now overtaken Sparrow for 9th position. Looking at the positions gained and lost, we see that the big win here from Thok and Paddy, 6th and 7th position respectively, and Naismith also 6th, and with the big loss for Faulkner all the way at the back, and Oranjeboom as well with 8 positions down and 11 for Faulkner. We already had 1 stop for Faulkner and Swanee, so it appears that they have had some issues with maybe damage. We're going to be looking up front as Tutucho is getting real close to the Alpine of the Steps. There's a yellow flag in the back, which appears to be for Oranjeboom, as he has gone off track but gone back on to join us on the track. Mike now has DRS, and this battle for 2nd place is going to continue. Dino not having the wing open, Mike having it open straight away. The Steps into the show also having the wings open. Mike making an easy overtake there, slotting it in front before the 1st turn. If you were with us for the 100% social race, you're going to see that this battle is going to be going on for quite a while. But it's important who has the position on the 2nd to last lap, because that is going to determine most likely who gets the position in the end, because there's 1 DRS straight and it is on the start finish. And with the DRS, you're not fast enough. Even with the DRS, you're not fast enough to overtake someone before the finish line from exiting the final spot. So it is oh so important to know who is at the end as Readout goes on the inside. Jesper has the soft, but does not make it work. Maybe a bit better on the exit. Readout's on the outside, trying to carry a lot of speed, and he does. Very good exit there, and he overtakes Jesper for 14th position. A very, very nice overtake there from the Haas driver. Thok is going a little bit wide there. Maybe trying to get as much speed because he knows that Paddy is on his rear, and he gets a 3-second penalty for doing so. Back again with the top 3. I believe this gap is a bit too big for F19 to do anything in particular, but we'll be dropping back down to see the other fights going on. Thok not yet close enough to do anything to Mihu, as there's a 3-second time penalty given to the AlphaTauri driver. And 17th place, Onjeboom getting a 3-second time penalty for track limits. Different drivers now diving into the pits. Paddy looking for the switchback. Having a great exit, but not fast enough to overtake the Red Bull of Thok. He really knows, just have to stay within 3 seconds and you'll be fine. But with this battling, he's getting held up and he wants to have more than 9th. His qualifying pace showed him in 3rd position for a lot of the time. 4th position for a tiny bit as well. So he knows he has podium pace. And he wants to have as good of a shot as possible for the feature race. A little bit of jumping going on, but nothing too bad just yet. Mike has now cleared Dino and gained a little bit on Kaka, looking to get that lead of the race as the steps overtakes Dino, and Tutucho goes right on with him. Locks on the inside. There's a little bit of space. Tutucho gets a small tap and Dino hits him on the apex. Both get out just fine, but with the time gaps a little bit bigger than they would have liked. Mario's now overtaking Brass Monkeys into the first corner and gaining 11th position. Almost getting into the space of points. We see Paddy again doing a great job as Mike has spun around at the start of Sector 2. And drops back all the way to 9th. Right behind Paddy, who we were just watching. As Naismith sets the fastest lap time with those new softs that he took in that stop. As you can see right here, we see that a few drivers have stopped. Including Faulkner, Naismith, Swanee and Jesper. Naismith now going onto the softs. And we have the highest soft runner currently in 12th with Brass Monkeys, who has lost 1 position. So the soft tire has not been too beneficial for these drivers, and the medium tire seems to be running quite well, which is an interesting little tidbit for the race that the drivers will most likely also take into account. Brass Monkey's now taking a 3-second time penalty on top of that as well. His tires might be dropping off a bit and losing a tiny bit of grip. Now, the small train, Thok, Paddy and Mike. Mike wanting to take as much speed here to overtake maybe both of these guys, as Thok goes defensive, leaving the inside open. Paddy now going up on the inside with Mike right there on the outside. Paddy now being passed, but Thok still has the car on the inside for the next few corners. And Paddy has to take the wider line, leaving the inside a tiny bit open for Mike to go through. Getting squirrely on exit. Mike able to follow through very nicely. As Naismith is just lapping faster and faster. Thok defending very well. Defending for his life here. Because he knows that if Paddy gets past, Mike might also shoot right through. So he'll lose 2 positions in 1. Paddy here has been eyeing up this position for a few laps already. Wants to have this oh so desperately. Dino now gets a 3-second time penalty. We see Thok going off as well, getting another 3-second time penalty, but staying in front of this small train, going off again. He's racking up these track limits violations pretty quickly. Does not have DRS. Now we see 3 wide on the start-finish straight. Mike getting the upper hand and overtaking both drivers, but Paddy sticking this car on the inside, getting past Thok just that tiny bit on exit. Has the position, but Thok sticking the nose back in, gaining the position back temporarily, as they're still side by side, but Paddy this time has the inside there and is able to stick his car in front of Thok. It appears there's some massive wiggling in between. Thok now getting the position back as Paddy is moving a little bit too much back and forth. Has lost a bit of grip as all of these drivers have all picked up extra penalties. Mike got a 3-second time penalty and Paddy as well. So Oranjeboom heading into the pits, now retired from the race. Will be starting last place in the feature race. Mike here being the real victor and getting the positions, both of them, as Mihu is overtaking Dino on his way to, as Mike is very close on him as well. He's attacking but also has to defend, so he's got to do double the work. As Mike, the big winner from that battle of these cars behind, the battle for 7th position, as he was able to overtake both Paddy and Thok and clear a gap, so he's safe from behind and also only has to think about the attack. Dino does not have DRS, but Mihu and Mike both do. Mihu being able to make the overtake work, but Mike having to wait another lap, maybe even 2. But that's as much time as he will get, as Paddy gets the overtake done on Thok, gaining that position there. Dino getting a bad exit, and Mike getting the overtake as soon as we flip away to a different car, to a different view. As we see Thok still pretty close here, and there's a yellow flag for Naismith way at the end, as he had a little error and had to move back. We see Brass Monkey's getting squirrely on exit, trying to follow Redoubts, his teammate. He's currently in 13th position. Top 5 without penalties. Tutucho, within a second of the steps, knows that he has only this lap to figure it out. Crossing the start-finish line, will be entering the final lap of the sprint race here in Qatar. Will he look on the inside? Most definitely he will. And he'll gain the position. 2nd place here for him. Mike looking to do the exact same here. Mihu going slightly defensive but sticking back on the line. And Mike does not have the distance to make it work. Same for Paddy. We see Tutucho getting overtaken back again by the steps for this important battle for the lead. For 2nd position, I should say. This is not for the lead. The lead is way gone. As we see Thok going off the track and clanging with some of the meter boards. As Paddy looks to overtake F1 Dino, tries to go around the outside, sticks his car and stays there. They're now side by side, and he now has some inside there, gains the position, but is a bit squirrely on exit, does not get enough. There's a small touch there as Dino goes off the track, but he still keeps the position. He's now actually lost the position. Paddy has gained 7th position here, but we're going to look real quick at the top 3. Tutucho still behind the steps. Is he close enough to get the position right before the start-finish line? He'll be opening up his DRS, but it doesn't look like he'll have the time for it. The steps trying to break the toe, and there's nothing Tutucho can do. The Aston Martin driver will finish in 3rd place. Mike having a 6-second time penalty, finishing behind Mihu by 31 thousandths of a second. As we see the Red Bull of Thok moving down. Sparrow moving up to 7th. As all of these drivers all have massive penalties added to their times. And we'll see the final standings to be Kaka in 1st. The steps taking the 2nd step to the show, finishing up the podium. Next up we have Divine Eye, Mihu, Mike in 6th. With a great recovery drive. Sparrow in 7th. Paddy in 8th. Also a very good recovery drive. Dino in 9th, losing out on a lot this race. And Rios in 10th. So the Alfa Romeo drivers seem to have better performance so far than the McLaren drivers, which is going to make the championship standings a bit more interesting. Paddy as driver of the day for the sprint race, of course, for his massive performance there. Starting 16th and moving all the way up into 8th. Here we have the final results. As said before, Kaka in first, the step second to the show third. We've already listed the top 10, so let's go to the bottom 10. We have in 11th Thok, then Woza, Redoubts, Jaspers, Brass Monkeys, Jesper, Swanee, Faulkner, Naismith, and at last we have Oranjeboom. Currently leading the championship and extending his lead, we have Kaka looking to make this a perfect weekend by grabbing pole, now finishing first in the sprint race. Looking to get the win in the feature race as well. You can take this little break to hydrate. Don't forget to drink. Even though it's cold outside and it's wet everywhere, you still need to be hydrated. As I just did as well. You might hear it in my voice. It's a bit more crisp now after having talked for a good half hour. Before that, also for an hour, I've been talking the entire day. So every voice needs refreshment. Also grab something to snack if you haven't got that already. I'm not allowed to leave my seat. I am tied down here. Dutchkey has a gun to my head. He doesn't, actually. That's a joke. For legal reasons, that's a joke. As we're waiting for the drivers to ready up between the sprint race and the feature race, their drivers are only allowed to change a few things on the car. One of those being the front wing, the other being the tires and the tire pressures, and the other thing being the differential. And, of course, the fuel load that they can add to the car. If it was the same as in the sprint race, every car would break down after 10 laps and we would not have a fun race. Now, readying up for the feature race, 50% race. We have some experience with the tires now. I've seen some drivers complaining about high tire wear. Unsure if that was one of the soft runners or if that was one of the medium runners. I assume it was one of the soft runners, because if it was the medium on 70%, we would not have the soft drivers at the end of the race. Currently giving the drivers enough time to make sure that they have everything loaded in correctly. Every little thing of setup checked. Room for a small toilet break, of course, as well. It looks like everyone is readying up as well. So I'm checking real quick to see some banter in the chat as well from drivers that have benefited from some contact. And it looks like we're all ready to go into the feature race. They're going to be about 27 laps, I think. Was it 29 laps? No, I always forget the amount of laps. 27. 29. 20 something. We'll see in just a minute. Here we go. as all the cars are lined up on the grid. And 29 laps it is as we're going around the track for our formation lap. Of course, the grid, the same as the finishing order of the sprint race. With Kaká in first and the steps next to him on the front row. Looking to get a good start as Kaká appears to have chosen for the hards a lot of different strategies. We see 5 drivers on the softs. We see 8 of them on the mediums. And we see 7 of them on the hards. Very different strategies. We've seen 2 mediums on the rear of the grid, as well as 16th and 14th, but then also from 7th to 10th, so the bottom part of the top 10. It's very interesting to see all of these drivers. The front has chosen for hards and softs, but then there's also a hard and a soft at 17th and 18th respectively. So a lot of different strategies on different parts of the track. We'll of course need to wait and see what the best strategy will be in the end. But for now, Kaká looking to get a very long first stint, trying to capitalize on those many positions that he gained, trying to maybe slow down the grid behind him, that they all need to take so much time overtaking him and use so much of the tires, like the steps, who is on the softs. Tires that do not last as long as the hards, but they do have more performance. Here we see possible race strategies going from soft to hard, or from soft to hards. They can also be swapped around, of course, from hard to soft and hard to soft to soft. It all depends on how long the soft's gonna last. What the graphic didn't show was the medium strategy. Of course, the usual medium strategy here would be the mediums to the hards, which would mean that the softs probably not going to make the end of the race. As we heard before, the softs only lasted those 10 laps and they were on 70%, which is way more than what you'd like on one of the tires. So going from hard to soft might be possible as long as the softs do more than 20 laps, way more than 20 laps. Making medium hard the more prevalent strategy for the medium runners instead of medium soft. Waiting for the 5 lights to go on as all the cars are now lined up for the start. Number 4 and number 5 holding the revs, and we're racing. Kaká having a good start on those hard tires. The steps getting a little bit squirrely there. We see Divine Eye on the inside looking for an overtake there for a podium position. Does he make it? He might just do it. Kaká having a great start as well. Divine Eye appears to have done the overtake. Dutra dropping down another position as Mike gains another one. Up into 4th position now. The soft runs of the soft tires of Divine Eye and the steps have been working a little bit better now. We see Divine Eye chasing down a little bit further as there's a safety car. A virtual safety car for some debris in the back. It appears that Jesper has lost his front wing and Swanee has a 5-second time penalty for contact, it appears to be. And maybe is also missing a tiny part of his car. Looks like he's missing the end plate there on the right side. So we still have the virtual safety car running, with Kaká having a 2-second gap. A 1.5 second gap behind as the safety car appears to be ending. Drivers going back up to racing speed, and Mike being very good on the power. Getting really close to get the position back as Divine Eyes dropping a second between him and the steps in front. Paddy is also looking for an overtake. There's a yellow flag in the back for Jesper. And we see Dino as well getting the overtake done here on Sparrow for 8th position. Here we see the new strategies going for softs to mediums as Paddy gets a position on Mihu as well. Jumping up the standings, starting 16th out of qualifying up into 6th all the way now. Thok now overtaking Marios as well. Marios falling down another position. Same goes for Mihu, also getting overtaken by F1 Dino as Swanee goes in for the DNF. Thok now on the inside of Sparrow. Sparrow dropping back, but Faulkner is also there, and they make contact. Thok and Faulkner both go around, trying to rejoin as fast as possible. It appears that Thok has rammed it into the wall, and he looks to be missing some part of his wing at least. So we see indeed his front wing being very broken. Naismith getting a position very nicely, but if we divert our eyes to the top of the grid, we see the steps within half a second of Kaka. So the battle for the lead is present. Getting real close now. So they're approaching the final corner. DRS will not be enabled for this lap. It will be starting the next lap, but as this is the only DRS zone, they'll only be able to use this on the next lap. But the slipstream alone is also very strong. The steps now taking the fastest lap with the softs should have a bit more performance in the corners, and it shows on the inside. Kaka has to move to the outside and losing that position to the Alpine driver, who is now the race leader. Some more shuffling way at the back of the grid, but one driver on the front who's starting to make moves is Tutuccio. Now half a second behind Mike, behind the Ferrari, but he also has to be careful because he's got Paddy right behind him. Paddy on the medium tires, and Tutuccio has the white-walled hard tire. Looking to make an overtake while also avoiding to get overtaken is always a very difficult job. We see that Tutuccio has lost a bit of time there in those corners, making it a perfect overtaking opportunity for Paddy to do something here at the end of this lap. Getting really close. He's got a small gap behind to Dino. There's a 2-second gap behind to Miu. It's a great opportunity here for these drivers to get past and climb back up to their pace. As we saw in qualifying, we know that Paddy and Dino both have great pace. But going to look up front first a little bit as Kaka has the DRS. The steps has not. Kaka already ducking out of the slipstream, looking on the inside. The steps not going defensive. Knows that it's coming. Kaka taking the inside. The steps looking for the switchback. Makes it happen. Sticks around the outside, but has the soft tires. He's got a lot more grip and is able to stick it up front and keep the position. But this allows Divine Eye to catch up and do his thing on his way to join the battle for the lead, trying to overtake Kaka as well. Divine Eye on the medium compound, on the soft compound, I should say. Also has a lot of grip, just like the steps has. Looking to maybe do some damage on the title fight, on the lead. But he's got to be careful because Mike is also joining him in this fight. Running a compound harder than his under the Mercedes. And there's a second gap between 4th and 5th, meaning this small train is going to be battling for the lead. We see Paddy here, extremely close to the Aston Martin of Tutuccio, as Mike in 4th gets a 3-second time penalty. But Paddy doesn't only have to look ahead, he also has to look behind, because Dino is also there into the final corner, looking for an overtake, but doesn't quite do it. Has to wait for the straight, as they'll have DRS. We see Mike there on the outside, overtaking Divine Eye. We see Paddy and Tutuccio, and F1 Dino, both going past Tutuccio. And Dino looking on the inside of Paddy, but doesn't make the overtake stick. Paddy has the inside here for the next one, looking wheel to wheel still, doesn't get enough room on the outside. We see Tutuccio going into the wall there. And Dino now getting in front of Paddy. Paddy still has the outside there, but has to back out. And loses the position as the Mercedes drivers are now holding 4th and 5th, as we see Rios overtaking Tutuccio as well. So it looks like he's dropped way back, and it looks like he's also missing his front wing, making it even more difficult for him to do anything. Paddy not wanting to let this one go, so looking for the retake of 5th. Stock has now set the fastest lap time on the softs. Like I said before, the softs with the fastest compound. Tutuccio now dropping all the way into 16th. As he's halfway around the track, but still has half to go back to the pits. and repair the damage to his wing. The steps now getting really close to getting overtake done on Kaka here. Opening up that flap again, and we're going to have this back and forth again and again and again. But Mike is also present. Sticking in the slipstream. Doesn't look for it. The steps does. Has his car in front before turn 2. And keeps the position. And gains the lead of the race. The top 3 now within a quarter of a second of each other. After the first few turns. A very close fight still between all of this. As we see Naismith being chased by the Ferrari of Losail. Where it's also a small train here. As we see Sparrow run into the wall. And retiring instantly. Dropping a safety car. Giving the steps a little bit of rest. And the rest of the grid time to catch up. A very, very big hit there. We're going to look on board with Tutuccio, who's allowed to pass the safety car to see if we can pick up on any bit of debris after turn 5. It appears to be the corner that Sparrow has DNF'd. Trying to see if we can catch any of the debris here, and we cannot. This was the point where the DNF has happened. We're waiting for all the cars to go past the timing line, and we see the steps going in, but Kaka taking the race lead here, choosing not to pit. Mike also going in, whereas F1 Dyno keeps going. So there's a very mixed strategy here, as Divine Eye gets a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane, which is huge. That's going to be a very, very big point here. He's not allowed to serve it during this pit stop, so he'll have to take that with him. A change in standings as most drivers choose to pit, but Kaka and F1 Dyno. So Hanjebom now also getting a 3-second time penalty. They're racking up very quickly. We saw a lot of complaints already about track limits earlier on in the chat. They stated that the track limits were way too finicky and it's all millimeter work. There's currently a big gap between the last places, the last drivers being Thok and Redoubt, and the rest of the grid. So we'll have to wait a tiny bit longer. Safety car should do at least another lap. Hopefully we'll be back in then. Kaka still holding on to the lead of the race after winning the sprint from pole position that he won in the one-shot qualifying. The steps starting on the front row now down to third. We can actually take a quick look at this and look at who won and lost. F1 Dyno from 8th all the way into second. I should say 9th all the way into second. I'm unsure what the numbers what the numbers do. Yes, it is from 9th all the way to second. My math doesn't math today. Naismith coming from 19th all the way up into 8th. A very good start. And then we have Tutuccio, who had a error, a mistake, hitting the wall, losing a front wing, and then going all the way down to 14th place. Losing 11 positions. The only drivers in the same positions as they started. Kaká in first and Rios in 10th. Overall, a lot of swapping around, but a lot has to do with Sparrow, Swanee and Jesper all DNFing already, giving everyone effectively 3 free positions. Drivers who have stopped everyone but Kaká and Dino, with Thok and Readouts having stopped twice, once before and now once during the safety car. On the tires, most drivers that have stopped have switched to the soft tire, and it looks like the Steps has chosen for another pair of softs, as the safety car will be in this lap, and we'll see how those new softs will affect this restart. It's going to be very interesting, as Kaká and Dino both have used tires, Kaká on the hards and Dino on the mediums. Just going to look at this restart from the front, and I think we'll let the focus be on the Steps, because this is going to be a big moment. He's starting in third with the cleanest compound of the top 3. Kaká has the ruling of when to start, and he has dropped it very early. The Steps capitalizing on this, being very awake and very aware. Has a great start to this, but Dino has the slipstream to be able to catch up. Tries to go around the outside, but doesn't quite make it work, as Kaká looks to be a little bit squirrely there, and the Steps overtaking Dino. Mike on it as well. Here we see the two at the front. The Steps looking, Kaká going defensive, so he's unable to do anything, but a bit wide. The Steps looking on the inside there for turn 5, but doesn't yet make the overtake happen. Braking very late. There's almost contact there. Mike going around the outside of F1 Dino, getting that position done. A very nice overtake on this restart. Otherwise, it's been very clean, as we see the Steps getting side by side with Kaká, but losing out as he has to take the outside line through the S's here. So he goes on the inside after this left-hander here, and there's caution there, as it looks to be a yellow for F1 Dino, going all the way down to last place as the Steps takes the lead in this race. But look at the scoreboard. Who is in 4th right behind Kaká? It is Paddy. Looks like Kaká has lost both positions in that hustle. Mike gaining a position there from Kaká, as well as the Steps. But Steps does not have DRS now, nor does he have a slipstream. Mike does have the slipstream. Mike going past on the inside, but the Steps braking really late, being able to keep that position and outbrake Mike on turn 1, making sure that he keeps the lead of the race with those softs. As Mike, if I'm not mistaken, yes, he is running new mediums, which is going to be a little bit more difficult to stay at the front. They've now built a small gap to Kaká, over a second now. Paddy is trying to regroup with his teammate up front. We've got 3 drivers in the pits. We see Divine Iwasa and F1 Dino, all 3 going into the pits. As Faulkner now gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. So the time penalties are shown on your screen right now, so you can see who has what and what is going on. I suspect at the end of the race we'll see something like a 9-second, maybe even a 12-second showing up, as Mihu also collects a 3-second penalty for the same violation as everyone else. Mike now on his way to battle for the lead. DRS has been activated now. Paddy overtaking his teammate on the straight, as the Steps sets a new fastest lap with a 1:24.3. And there we finally have confirmation of DRS being enabled. Faulkner overtaking Tutuccio with his Alpine, trying to join the great performance of the Steps, being in first. See Mihu now very close to Kaká. Remember, Kaká is in first in the championship, and Mihu's teammate Rios is in 7th, who is second in the championship currently. So by battling with Kaká, losing him time, and allowing Mihu to catch up, Rios to catch up, Mihu is doing his teammate an amazing favor. Thok now as well, gaining a 3-second time penalty, adding up to the one that he already had, making it now 6 seconds. The first driver to hit 6 in this race. And very excited to see what the highest score will be. Faulkner now very close to Mario, something that McLaren does not want. But he also has to look behind him, as there is an Aston Martin very close to doing something. As we see the steps getting overtaken on the straight by Mike, who has the harder compound, but made a very good job there. As Mihu now splits the Alfa Romeos and is now in 4th position, making sure Kaká stays behind. And maybe helping his teammate out, and also helping the Constructors' Championship out by giving McLaren points and taking them away from Alfa Romeo. A 2-in-1 job. Marios also very close to gaining even more points. Stock now goes instantly for his 3rd violation, giving him 9-second time penalties. F1 Dyno sets the fastest lap. There's a small battle here on the end. Thok getting really squirrely on the exit, barely being able to keep it on track, as there's 2 Haas drivers right behind him. Unsure where to go. Looking to be as safely as possible, opening a small gap to make sure that they don't have contact anywhere. So we see Faulkner now making a small mistake after being very close to Naismith. But if you look at the bottom side of the screen, we see this exciting battle between Paddy, Mihu and Kaká, as the top has already cleared off, with Mike having a 2nd gap behind to the steps, and now having a 6-second gap behind Mihu, gaining that position off of Paddy, and Kaká staying behind his teammate in 5th. Mike now picking up another 3-second time penalty, giving him possibly a few more positions of penalties, a few more positions dropped towards the end of the race. As we see Paddy getting very close to Mihu, trying to overtake the McLaren, gain more positions for the team, and also for the championship battle. Paddy currently, if I recall correctly, 4th in the championship. Also still fighting for some of the top positions. There's another battle going on here. Faulkner looking to overtake the Red Bull. And Tuccio close to this as well. Marios not too far off either. Still has DRS to stick with it. And able to maybe tag along on this ride. So we see a lot of drivers going wide already. Even on these tires that are not that old yet. We see Faulkner on 6-lap old softs. But as we heard before, after 9 laps they can already reach 70% wear. Faulkner now on the outside. Naismith maybe looking to go defensive, but it's no use. The Alpine car has already passed his view as Thok has retired from the session. And there's a safety car being dropped. So it appears that the Red Bull has DNF'd somewhere close to the pit wall. F1 Dyno making great use of the safety car timing. Making sure he's the first one to go into the pits, as everyone else has already gone past, besides him and Waza. Divide Eye now getting a really, really nice catch up here, as we see Brass Monkey's getting a 5-second time penalty for ignoring yellow flags. Unsure what that's all about. And And just got word from Thok saying that he had 60% tire wear after 5 laps, which is an insane amount of wear already after such a small amount. And here we see the lead back of cars going into the pits. We see Mike jumping in the steps as well. Looking back a little bit further where we see the rest go in as well. Mihu going in. Paddy as well. Kaka looking to go in. And here's the rest of the train. All going in to the pits. Brass Monkeys as well. Jaspar's staying out. It's one of the only drivers staying out here. Looking to pick up a few positions as the rest is all in the pits. Look at him go. Oranjeboom also staying out. Here we see him as far down as 12th. All the way up into 3rd. Rejoining here. In the top 3. And if we look at the tire wear, looks like he has some older tires. The steps going to the hard, thinking he can finish the race on this. And Mike going for the softs, knowing that he has to stick a little bit longer and also has to change his compounds. A lot of drivers now exiting the pits as well. So we now have a provisional standing of what it's going to be like at the end of the safety car. With the added tire compounds, of course. So at the front we have Mike leading the race on new softs. The steps right behind on new hards as we are going into the second half of the race. But remember, Mike has a 6-second time penalty and the steps is right behind him without any penalty. So this is going to be an interesting one to watch. As all the drivers have now queued up behind the safety car, we should have confirmation that the safety car will be in this lap right here at the end. So we can start the second half of this Grand Prix with Mike taking the lead and being able to drop throttle whenever he wants. There's the confirmation. Safety car in this lap from race control, and derail Mike now controls the pace. The Steps looking alive, but he has a compound harder. 2 compounds harder, to be exact. So he's got to be more and more vigilant. We see Naismith dropping really far back. It appears that he's had a little bit of a moment. And Mike dropping it around the final corner, switching all the way to the right-hand side of the straight to make sure that the Steps does not get a single bit of slipstream, as Mihu gets a great start, overtaking Jaspars right before turn 1, braking late, and being able to stick it on the inside. But there's also Paddy looking on the inside, as there's a big opening there with those softs carrying around a lot of speed. Faulkner are looking to make an overtake happen as well, as we see Redoubts dropping all the way back. As Jaspars, Faulkner are now fighting. Faulkner overtaking Jaspars. And Kaka and Tetuccio also going through, with Jaspars sticking his nose in, but unable to take back any of those positions that he lost. And Rios will now be looking to grab this position, this Williams as well. Paddy now closing in on the provisional podium position. Rios, here we go, has now overtaken Jaspars. As we look up front, we see a small battle for 5th, as we're focusing on Paddy in 4th. Just looking to go around the outside of Mihu, and he makes it work. Mihu going back as Tetuccio is now overtaking Kaka and is up into 6th place. This DRS has not yet opened, but Mike has a great start of this Grand Prix, of the restart of the Grand Prix. Faulkner now overtaking Mihu, looking on the inside of Paddy as well, but doesn't have the grip to make it stick. Tetuccio now also looking for an overtake on Mihu as well. Has the inside for the next turn, but if you look further behind, we see Kaka also in this battle and gaining that position almost of Mihu. Mihu being able to defend just that tiny bit, which is very beneficial because Marios is only 2 seconds behind. And as Brass Monkeys retires, and we have yet another safety car. This is going to be a little bit of a breather for Mihu and from Rios, as he'll be looking to get more positions off of his championship rival and of the championship, the Constructors' Championship rivals as well, with McLaren wanting to fight more with Alfa Romeo after they've taken such a big lead. Same goes for Rios and Kaka respectively. Kaka having a big lead on his championship rival Rios, and only extending it so far, but has made a small slip up in this race. As Mike jumps into the pits and maybe regrets his choice for the softs. The Steps also going into the pits. Those days got 10 laps remaining. Paddy jumping in as well. Faulkner staying out, as he will gain the lead of this race temporarily. But hopefully for him, it'll be permanently. We see Mike switching to new softs. Now we see the Steps switching to new mediums. Paddy also to new softs. The Steps does not think that the softs will last to the end of the race, so he knows he's got to go for the mediums. As the drivers ahead think their tires will definitely make it last until the end. Another small break in this eventful race. So all the pits are now finishing up. We see the drivers that have pitted are Mike in 5th for new softs. Behind that we have the Steps in 7th, from the race lead down to 7th. Or from 2nd place, I should say, down to 7th with new mediums. We have Paddy, Kaka, Waza, and Naismith all have pitted for new softs, and are all lined up behind each other, with the McLaren duo going to 3rd and 4th. It's going to be very interesting to see the result of this, if they can make the tires last and if they can keep the pace with the Alfa Romeo drivers in 9th and 10th. This is big for the Drivers' Championship. This is big for the Constructors' Championship. There will not be too many jumps in the standings, but there most likely will be cuts in the gaps in between. F1 Dyno, now last, has about 18 seconds to catch up to the grid, to the rest of the grid, to the pack. We'll have to wait for a tiny bit longer. One more lap, hopefully, and then we'll be back into racing action. Now back again to racing for the final 10 laps, 9 laps I should say, of this race. Safety car going in this lap. And Faulkner this time has the chance to drop the hammer. Faulkner, who has been very low on the sprint race, has gained 17 places so far with a great strategy. Now he's on the hards, but on the defense, as the Tucho behind is on the mediums, and the McLaren drivers as well on mediums and hards, as he drops it right at the exit there. But look behind, we see Mike overtaking Miu already on the spot. Mike being on the softs has a bit more grip. Now the steps also looking to make an advance here, and he does, getting past both drivers, but still side by side with Mike as he keeps his nose in all the way up to turn 2. Will the steps be able to keep it on the outside? Yes, he will. Now has the inside for the next turn, but Mike has the soft tires, which means he can carry so much speed around. There's a bit of shuffling behind as well with Redoubts and Kaka. Kaka in the end staying ahead. Mike having to stick behind the steps. The steps now next to Mrios, getting an overtake done. Mrios dropping down 2 positions. As Paddy now also gets past Miu. So this fight for the championship is going to be even more interesting as Kaka is joining this battle too. See, overtakes Miu, going very wide on that corner, taking the long route and losing 7th position. Mike now very close to the steps. And the steps very close to Tutucho. Looking to get something done on the inside. Breaks very late and gets 2nd position of the Aston Martin. A very nice overtake here. So Mike is looking to do something as well. Paddy now going past Mrios. And Mrios having to defend even more. Getting overtaken by Kaka. Waza now overtaking Miu as well. The McLaren driver just dropping down and down. But when we look at the compounds, it makes more sense. Mrios on used hards, Miu on used hards, while Mike, Paddy, Kaka and Waza are all on new softs. We can see Naismith also on new softs. Going to be joining this battle very, very soon. Mike on the inside of the Tucho. Looking to get a great exit out of that corner. But will he have enough speed? Yes, he will. He's way past the Tucho already. Up into third position. The steps. Now chasing his teammate Faulkner for that race win. You see Faulkner struggling for grip on the hards in front. Whereas the steps has the medium compound. Both of them have used tires. So it's like for like. DRS will be enabled. The steps on the outside gets a tiny tap. Has to back off. And is now vulnerable. Excuse me, DRS not yet enabled. Will be enabled this lap. We see Mike going side by side. 3 wide now with the top 3. Who will keep the position? Who will get out in front? Some small wheel banging. And it's Mike who goes out in front. The steps in second. And Faulkner in third. But further behind we've got some more shuffling as well. Reshaping the order. Faulkner dropping back a little bit. Even more as Paddy with the new softs. Has so much grip. And almost goes past into that podium position as well. Kakano around the outside of the Tucho. Having a softer tire. Of course, being able to carry more speed around the outside. Paddy looking to do the exact same to Faulkner here. Will he succeed keeping it next to him? And now is passed into third position. And looking for that final podium step, but maybe looking to make it even more Kaká behind his teammate, looking to do an identical move just a few corners later. He is looking to maybe outbrake the Alpine, sticks behind for a tiny bit. Just definitely looking to do something as Faulkner gets another 3-second time penalty, which adds up to 9 seconds. And now has given up the position to Kaká, who's now up into 4th. So the Alfa Romeo drivers going from further down up into the top 4. Both of these as the McLaren drivers were in the top 4 and dropped back to 8th and 9th on this restart. In the back we see Waza side by side. Also Faulkner side by side, but Mike getting overtaken by the steps. The steps grabbing the lead of the race. The Tucho having to defend as Waza pushes through. Kakano overtaking Faulkner after a slight scrap there in the start of the lap. The steps and Mike now comfortably ahead of Paddy and the rest of the fight here for third place. These drivers will most likely be looking to get something up front done. As when we look at the tires, we see that the steps now has used mediums 5 laps, but the softs will be dropping off a little bit too. So Mike needs to make a move soon. Waza now very close to Faulkner. Heading into the very fast right-handers, which appears to be 3 corners, but it's only a small twitch in the wheel. Tutucho looking as well. Getting really close. Has the DRS on this next bit. As Ohanjeboom is collecting penalties like Kaká is collecting points. Kaká now side by side with Paddy as the steps gets overtaken. We see some more action going down on the straight as Tutucho gains 2 positions. Is on the inside. Waza keeping it around the outside, sticking his nose back in and getting the position back. Maybe, no, not yet. Tutucho keeping 5th position. Now Waza has to look behind in his mirrors as Faulkner is looking to attack as well. The steps and Mike both still battling with each other, but also gaining ground and pulling away from the rest of the grid. As Mike gets another 3-second time penalty for track limits, showing how much he is pushing to keep that lead from the steps. But with those 9 seconds added, he's going to be dropped back quite a few positions, meaning that Kaká can still win this race if he gets within range of the steps, who is now looking to get an overtake on track. Getting really, really, really close. It only looks like Mike has the win set. But the steps now. Opening DRS. And here we can see the Alfa Romeo drivers of Kaka and Paddy now on the final corner. On the straight. Chasing these two down. You see how small the gap is there. One mistake from one of the top two guys. And this race can fly right open for them. Faulkner with the DRS overtake on Losail. Losail sticking around the outside. Has the softer compound, so should be able to carry much more speed and make a lot of work for Faulkner, but unable to do anything for now. Looking for the next turn, maybe outbraking, but sticking behind. Gets immediately attacked by Naismith, who is a little bit further behind. Goes around the outside, looks to go around the outside. Has a good exit. Next corner will be a right-hander, but has to stick behind because he does not have enough speed to do much there. Rios now being challenged by the Divine Eye. Looks to have a better tire compared to the McLarens. So is able to attack and maybe get into the top 10 for this race. Currently 14 drivers still going, as there have been 6 DNFs so far. So we look at the top 2 now. The steps going defensive for Mike, who goes around the outside, has the grip for it, tries to stick it. Now as the inside sticks his nose in as they're wheel to wheel through turn 2, but the steps takes the lead still, as Divine Eye now has the position from Rios, who dropped down to 11th place now. If the race would finish as is, Mike would drop below Kaka, below Paddy, and maybe even below Tutuccio to 5th place, meaning 2 Alfa Romeos could inhabit the podium if Paddy gets outside of those 3 seconds that Tutuccio has in front of him. It's going to be a very close one. Naismith in 8th, looking to get a little bit more time because he knows he's got more penalties than the drivers around him. You can see that on the screen. He's got a bit more room that he has to clear. So he wants to gain as many positions as possible, as quickly as possible. Same goes for Mike. In 2nd place, has 9 seconds of penalties. So he knows that the more time he loses now, the longer his penalty, or the more his penalty will affect, and the more he's going to drop. So overtaking the steps is the first step, ironically. Naismith is now around the outside. Losail going defensive, but it's no use against the Red Bull. Going past and getting 7th position. The steps still closing in on Mike as we're entering the final few laps of the race. Only one more entire DRS zone to go for the drivers to overtake to change the lead. And then it's only 2/3, just over half, I should say 3/5, about 60% of the start-finish straight left to overtake. A little bit less than 60%, I'd say. Probably 55% of the start-finish straight left to overtake in the other driver, or to swap for the lead. So we're now entering the final lap. Remember, this may be for the lead of the race, but most likely will not be for the win of the race. So we're going to look behind a bit more as the steps takes the lead. But now we have this DRS battle here between Miu and Divine Eye, who both want to get past the Ferrari of Losail. Miu being able to get past up into 8th position. And remember, these drivers are fighting for net position as they all have the same penalty. So these are net positions that they're racing for, and they know, they can see it on the screen. And they all know that they have a chance of getting more and more points because the drivers ahead have more penalties than they do. Divine Eye now very close on the inside with Waza. Small contact looks like, or Waza just got a bit squirrely on the exit. A bit unstable. And now is under attack from Rios, who is very close and might just gain all of these positions and shoot up to 6th. If it stays like this, that would be an amazing performance here to just shoot up like that. As we're approaching the final corner, the Steps is still in the lead of this race and will take the victory around Losail in Qatar with round 9 being his to claim. The Steps winning. Derail Mike cutting it in second, but with penalties will drop down to third. Kaka getting second position. Mike down to third. Tutucho in fourth. Paddy dropping down to fifth. Faulkner in sixth, dropping back. As we see, indeed, Muriel's jumping up to sixth. Mihu in seventh. Divine Eye eighth. Naismith in ninth. Waza in 10th. Faulkner crossing the line as well with all those penalties in 11th. Redoubts joining in on 12th. And now it's just waiting for Jaspers and Dino to finish the race in 13th and 14th respectively. Alfa Romeo hereby have increased their lead by another big amount of points by making this gamble happen and making sure that the soft tires lasted for the final restart of the race, where McLaren have chosen to go and stay out on those tires to not lose track position, and they have lost out on the gamble. Here we're on the podium. We have the Steps claiming the step in first. A very good job there. Very nice drive as well. Good performance in the qualifying, good performance in the sprint, and also a very good performance in the race. The entire 29 laps. So not a perfect weekend for Kaká, but still an amazing performance. A lot of points grabbed in the bag for him, as he finishes in second place. With Mike in third, our newcomer, our reserve for touchscreen. Here we have the final standings, which should be about the same with the adjusted points. The Steps in this weekend grabbing the victory. Kaká in second place, Mike third, Tutucho in fourth, Paddy in fifth after a great performance in the feature race, Mio in sixth, Divine Eye in seventh, and Rios in eighth, Sparrow ninth, Naismith in 10th, and Waza in 11th. Those final few places may still change a little bit, but that will be decided later on. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I have been Wops, aka I've been Olaf, aka Wops Racing. Thank you for joining us live on stream, and we'll see you next week.